hello there, fellow Earthlings. How the devil are we all? I'm Smurftastic. You needn't ask about my Smurfisms. Anyways, how's everyone else? How are you doing? You're all alive, I take it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this. That wouldn't make any sense. But anyway, yes. I'm very well. I'm very well. It's 7 p.m. here in the UK. It's 2 p.m. on the east coast of Americana land. It's 6 a.m. in Fiji. Welcome to all of the people, all of the 7 billion people who could possibly be living in Fiji, but probably don't because it's a small Pacific island nation and not a place that's really capable of holding that number of people. So I don't know why I said it. Stupid thing to lead the show off with, really. Anyway, talking of stupid things to lead the show off with, matters are rising. Trust me. You've probably tuned in for like the Serfs thing with Destiny. That will make up the bulk of tonight's show. I want to just have matters arising from yesterday's show involving the Burger King himself, Caleb Maupin, or more precisely, his fans, because I had one or two choice words for Mr. Maupin in yesterday evening's journey through the interwebs, otherwise known as just me talking into a microphone, basically. And his hypocritical bullshit about how the left, the synthetic libtard, what's the phrase he uses? Radlib. Can I get a Radlib gang in the chat? Nicely done in advance, because obviously there's a 15-second delay. I have no idea if anyone's going to do it. Fuck it. Anyway, he had some thoughts about the Radlibs, the Radlib left, the synthetic left, and how we don't like ideas. We don't like ideas, we don't like facts, you're not allowed to accept facts. So I just pointed out some facts that he doesn't accept, like, the Uyghur genocide and the Holodomor, and basically the fact that his entire worldview is a lot of bullshit. And the tankies, in their usual way, came at me with some absolutely brilliant high-level ideas, and I just want to share a couple of specifics. One is technically from a private message, but as I've not answered the private message and have no intention of doing so, which I think you'll understand given the nature of the private message involved, I don't really see it as betraying anyone's trust, because there's no private information involved here, it's just hate mail. And I'm going to show it to you, because it's funny. Anyway, so that takes me to my Twitch page. Which, hello there to everyone watching on Twitch. I have no idea how many at the moment. I'm not checking. You can't. You absolutely. Oh. We still going? Is that still... I have no idea what's happening. Why did it do that? Don't do that. Pardon me, everybody. Is this still going out? I have no idea. It is still going out. Jesus, my computer for some reason tried to shut down. That wasn't even a fucking bitrate connection issue. My computer decided it wanted to shut down. And I had to press the don't shut down thing anyway. Thankfully, the fact that I had OBS open was enough. It saved me on this occasion. I've still dropped 0 frames, even though my computer twice tried to shut down. That's very confusing. Anyway, that's boomer moment number 1. Count them up. Can we get double digits tonight? Anyway, like I said, I had some hatred from a tanky, a defender of Caleb Maupin. Now, as you can see, that's my Twitch page, and I'll just try and make this bigger on the screen for everybody. Hang on 1 second. It's quite awkward because it's right in the fucking corner. But anyway, there we go. Right. So, as you can see, completely on, and by the way, that's my Twitter feed there, at Kurt F. Logan, if you want to go and follow me on the Twitter. I do give good tweets. There's no doubt about it. But anyway. Yes. So, unprovoked by me, at 9:02 p.m. So just after I'd finished the show, I went for about an hour and 50 minutes ish, having started at 2 minutes past 7 or something. So yeah, literally within 10 minutes of me finishing my stream, this Andrew Richardson, 91, who's either a 91-year-old or was born in 1991. Probably the latter, I would imagine, which makes them a whole 29 years young. Bless them. Anyway, says, shut up. Sorry, shut the fuck up, you moronic. For some reason, moronic is capitalised. I don't quite understand that. Twat. Sneaky dickhead libtard. Yeah, a well thought out critique. Thank you, Andrew. Right? Then follows that up straight away. I haven't responded yet with, Kylo is much smarter and does way more work than you. Again, thanks, Andy. You've really taught me something there. I mean, what Caleb does is mostly literally exactly what I do, but with genocide denial as well. So, he just does internet stuff, doesn't he, mostly? Oh, yeah, and he works as a kind of a human cocksock for Vladimir Putin, which is nice. Anyway, he continues. Again, right, so that's happened. I didn't respond. 21 minutes later, he comes back with, stupid dipshit, prick. Thanks. Again, I don't know why dipshit is capitalised, but stupid and prick aren't. This person, I'll be honest, I like a fresh approach to writing style. It's almost poetic in some respects. I'm not entirely sure what he means to imply by this incredibly scattergun approach to the use of the caps lock button. But thank you nonetheless, Andrew. And then, I wasn't even going to mention this on the stream, right? I wasn't going to bring this up at all. Until randomly, at 2:30 this afternoon, right? So, what's that, 15 hours later? More? 17 hours later. No, hang on. Come on, Kim, you could do the mathematics on this. Jesus, 3 plus 12 is 50, 17 hours later. Right, he comes back with, again, I haven't responded to him, haven't said a fucking word, haven't even mentioned Caleb Moppin in the time since. He just comes back with, fuck you. Which, I love that. I just, why? Why are you still moulding about that nearly a day later? You stupid cunt. Oh my giddy days. That's beautiful. Andy, calm the fuck down, man. Like, there's no need to be getting that angry with me. I'm just a twat on the internet. Why would you give a fuck? Oh, so that tickled my bones. All of my bones, all of them. Not even just the funny bone, which you would imagine would get tickled because it's a funny bone. No. It's so much more than that. Anyway, he's probably a Villa fan. I don't know. Not all Villa fans are technically idiots. Some of them are just pricks. See what I did? I insulted a football team's fan base for no other reason than my own petty regionalism. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, so yes, so Andy did what he did, which was just funny. Like, there's no extra to that. Like, I'm not. Hang on, I have to try and resize my fucking screen in OBS. Apologies, everyone. You're dealing with Boomer Kev tonight. Unlike every other fucking night, obviously. We just go swimmingly. Anyway, no, don't want to do that. You want to do that? There we go. Right. So anyway, yeah, fuck Andrew Richardson. What a knob. Which then takes me to a piece of correspondence from a Caleb Moppin fan with an absurd accusation. Oh no, imagine that. Imagine a tanky making an absurd, completely pointless accusation against another person. But they did. Where are we? Here we go, right. Rod Dog commented on the video on YouTube, the exact same thing, the exact same broadcast, says, you complain about him on this occasion being the Burger King, being on Russia Today, but the BBC is also state Rune Media, which I think you mean state run, okay. blatantly anti-Slavic racism. Really, right, dog. Let's dissect this a little, shall we? I did complain about Caleb Mappin doing Russia Today, because Russia Today is obviously state propaganda. It's a state propaganda outlet in English, being broadcast to the world, doing Russian government propaganda outright. There's not even like a thin veneer of respectability, to the point where most Western governments, quite rightly, force Russia Today, in order to broadcast in their country, to register as a foreign agent. Because that's what they are. It would be espionage otherwise. Okay? Whereas, you say the BBC is state-run. It isn't state-run, actually. It's not a state broadcaster. It's a national broadcaster. There is a difference there, my friends. The government decide on what the licence fee is, so technically how much money would therefore go to the BBC, but it has no day-to-day involvement in the running of it. The government can't just ring up and go, oh, do you mind not publishing that news about blah-de-blah, which would be embarrassing for the government, okay? The government doesn't set what the BBC puts out at all, okay? Now, unfortunately, those safeguards have been eroded because the Tories are cunts. That's not great, but still, it's not a state broadcaster. They are different things. And also, you dick, at no point did I say the BBC is perfect, or that if you work for the BBC, that would make his lies okay. It would just make the BBC worse, right? But I didn't say that at any point. And just because I'm British doesn't mean I have to, stan the BBC. That's ridiculous. Now on to the silly accusation. Anti-Slavic racism. 2 quick points. Firstly, I never mentioned Slavic anything. At any point, so I don't know what the fuck you're even talking about there. And secondly, don't bring your identity politics here, please, people. Let's, look, your Slavic identity politics stuff is... It's breaking apart the proletarian movement, yeah? All your identity politics is doing is dividing the working class, okay? So, keep your identity politics away from my socialist proletarian revolution. Yes? Yes, yes. Dickhead. Shut up. Shut up. Anyway, that was good to get off my chest. Anyway. On a completely unrelated note, other than the fact that it's a dickhead being a dickhead. Oh my god. Twitter. Something that made me laugh today. A Tory MP called, Andrew Bowie, I think it was, made a bit of a cock of himself. Here we go, Andrew Bowie MP. He's a Conservative member of the British Parliament. Am I on the right thing here? I don't even know. Is this being shown? Apologies, I've had to do this on the fly, because I had my entire thing set up, and then, obviously my windows got closed, because my fucking computer decided to shut down. Apologies. Andrew Bowie. We'll do that again. I was doing that on a fucking thing that was off the screen. Hang on, was the YouTube thing on the screen? Did any of you see the YouTube thing? What's this? Oh, thank you for the subscription. Phenomenal lass. Thank you. Anyway, yes, you did see the YouTube thing. Good. Okay, apologies. So because I'll let you peer behind the screen. Okay, this is a tab capture. So all you see is literally this tab and whatever other tabs I open on this. I've also got a thing down there where I've got my Twitch and YouTube open, so I can see what the chat are up to and all the rest. Sort your voice out, Kev. What have I done? What have I done with my voice? Oh, hello, Alana, the trans game girl. Hello. Yes, thank you for your thing. We see YouTube now, see Twitter. Good, that's what I want. What's wrong with my voice, Tony? Tony's my go-to person for telling me that things are wrong. Which is good. I'm not saying that as a criticism, I'm just saying, it's a thing. That's just the Brummie accent. How very funny, thank you. Is that literally the problem? You sound deeper than normal. How do I sound now? Slightly slowed down? Okay, well, I don't know what's going on there. Let's go attack the tiny Falklands. What? It's weird. Look, can you... Tony, Can you hear me and understand what I'm saying? Even if I sound like I'm fucking Barry White doing this shit, is that fine? Can you actually understand what I'm saying? When I'm saying, is there a problem here? Yes, we understand. Good, okay. Because when I want to know if there's a problem, I don't care if I sound like a complete cunt. I just want people to be able to hear that I sound like a complete cunt. That's all I'm interested in. Anyway. Andrew Bowie MP. He's a fucking prick. Anyway. He's a Conservative Member of Parliament for West Aberdeenshire and Kincardine, which is second only to East Kilcoddy and East Kirkcaldy and Fife as the most Scottish thing ever. Or possibly East Dunbartonshire. There's lots, anyway. He's a Conservative Member of Parliament for a seat in Scotland, and as such is a posh Conservative type of Scottish person. Which, how do I even explain that to like an American? Because most of my audience, or at least like half of my audience, is American. How do I explain that to an American? I don't really know. I suppose it's, if we imagine it like, say, New England, right? You've got kind of quite a lot of posh people who go to like Cape Cod and all that shit, right? Or Martha's Vineyard, right? And all of that. You've got a lot of posh people, a lot of kind of old money folk. Those are your kind of Scottish Tory types. Whereas most of the people you get to Boston, and like, say, Christiosity, or various other people, Boston people, I love them dearly, but they're working class scum. Like myself, really. Absolute filth. That need to be degenerates. I mean, they're degenerates. That's the ultimate point I'm making, and I love them dearly for it. But that's the kind of difference, right? So the people of Scotland generally are filth. Gee, this got out of hand. This metaphor was meant to be a kind of jokey thing. It got a little bit out of hand. It got away from me slightly. Apologies. Anyway, the people of Scotland are generally pretty down to earth, working class folk, right? They don't take your bullshit. Your average Conservative is like this kind of stuffy upper class cock. And this was perfectly summed up for me. Anyway, so this fucking Tory cunt, right? He tweeted out this last night. Now, there's nothing wrong with tweeting out your meal, right? But when your constituency is like, in Scotland or whatever, that's the House of Commons symbol, so he's presumably eating in House of Commons, which is not unsurprising for a member of the Parliament, right? That's fine. But first off, this is supposed to be traditional like fish and chips. That's clearly got like flakes of sea salt on it, which I think in Scotland would make you officially gay. I think that's how it works. I don't know. And then a lattice work of 6 chips. That's not proper fish and chips at all on any fucking level. That is one of the poshest meals I've ever seen. Now, this reminds me of the time I was going to see a Llanelli rugby club, rugby union football union, whatever, club play in the first ever Anglo-Welsh Cup final at Twickenham. So we were staying overnight in the hotel across the road from Heathrow Airport. Anyway, so the night before the game, we were going to the London Welsh Rugby Club to get pissed, basically. And by the way, Llanelli is the team I support, even though I'm not from there. It's complicated, I'm not going into it. So, we were walking through Richmond, which is where this is located, and it's a very, very posh part of London. But we were fucking starving, so we went into this pub, ordered some stuff. My dad ordered a steak and chips. It came out, it was a steak, and then like all the kind of gobbings on the side, salad and all that shit. And my dad called the woman across and said, "Where's the chips?" And she said, "Oh, it's underneath the steak." And there was a lattice work of like about, 10 chips or whatever, like as you see on the screen there. And my look on my dad's face was like something I've never seen. Like I'm a working class lad. I was surprised by it, but my dad looked at like askance, like this is the chips I'm getting with this shit. Like it was the most outrageous thing. I've never seen him more offended, more absolutely gobsmacked at the injustice. Anyway. So, this is like a really posh thing. This is not traditional English fish and chips, or Scottish fish and chips, whatever. British fish and chips. It's a joke, right? And he put that out. Now, as a Scottish Member of Parliament, you have to be expecting you're going to get a bit of blowback from that. This posh Tory cunt clearly doesn't know, he didn't care. He put it out, didn't understand what was going on. And he then put out this today. Or sorry, they put out that yesterday with the picture the day before. Apologies. I regularly get asked as Conservative Vice Chair for Youth if social media might put people off going into politics. Last night I posted a picture of my dinner, a plate of fish and chips. These are some of these are a selection of the responses. I'm doing a posh Scottish accent there, yes, I do. Anyway, fucking Tory cunt. Fuck off, you Tory cunt. Probably quite a lot of those. He narrowed that down to 2. Greedy shit. Hashtag wanker. Nice use of hashtag. Demented. Scottish Tory six chip twat. That's exactly what I mean. Scottish Tory six chip twat. Exactly. Literally exactly what I mean. Pretentious Tory twat. More chips on his plate than brain cells in his head. Typical Tory moron. Tories can't even be trusted with fish and chips. I hate them. And then another lying Tory coward. That's just unnecessary, that last one. Oh. Scottish Tory six chip twat. Andrew Bowie, that will be your epitaph, my friend. You absolute fucking cockhead. That felt good. You gotta laugh, haven't you? You either laugh or you fucking cry. Whew. Anyway, so yes, that's just the nonsense I wanted to open up with, frankly. Where are we? Yeah, hang on. Go back. No, I don't want to do that. God, I'm terrible at this. Right. Yes, we want to go onto YouTube, right? And we want to go on to the Serfs, don't we? No, well, technically, is it on the Serfs or the Surf Times? The Surf Times. Apologies. Right, now I've already watched this debate through, but we're going to watch it anyway, and I need to put my headphones in, don't I? Ooh. Also, I'm now beginning to sweat, so I'm going to put my headphones on. No, not headphones, my fan. So if you can hear the fan, tough shit, I'm sweating me cock off. Right. We are good to go. This stream isn't scuffed at all, this is fine. This is absolutely wonderful. If it's not the bitrate that gets me, it's my own incompetence. Hang on. What would help if I put the desktop audio on? Wouldn't it? That would definitely help if you could hear the thing that I'm trying to allow you to hear. Anyway, added permanent term cunt fuck shit twat. What is that? What? Things are happening in the chat, in the Twitch. It's all going up in the Twitch. That's not remotely true, but it's still a thing. Anyway. What am I doing? Yes, sorry, yes. So this is Destiny, right? I'm going to play the Destiny clip. Not the Destiny. I'm going to play as much of this as I can. We probably actually won't even get to Prager U tonight because I can't bother. But we will at some point. That video will be evergreen. So they're basically saying BLM are a load of shit, and they got a black dude to say it. I know, crazy talk. Anyway, I only got rid of my fucking. Why did the computer try and shut down? Now I've got to get my fucking links out again. Anyway, so Destiny, right? The famous streamer. We talked about this before. I really wanted to do this tonight because I tried previously to do the Destiny versus Vosh debate thing, which was pretty spicy as well. But apparently, because Vosh is kicked off off Twitch, that it's not allowed or whatever. So this will give me the opportunity to make basically the same arguments I was going to make, but with Destiny this time. Now I want to point these things out. Now you might say that what I'm about to do would be poisoning the well or whatever, but I don't think they are. I think this is perfectly justified scene setting, if you will. because Destiny's going to try and pass himself off in this debate as vaguely like sensible about it. Like, you may disagree with me, but this is about philosophy. This is about a philosophical inclination I have towards, private property and the defense of private property. It's not. He's just a shitbag. He's a dog shit human being. Okay. So this is from Destiny's Twitter account. He posted this little meme just after Bozeman had died. You watch the hood, I'll watch the skies. And that's the Kenosha murderer who Destiny will be defending in the debate. I know, shocking stuff. Scratch a libertarian, a fascist appears. And there are a few more. It gets worse, unfortunately. Listening to kids who grew up rich their whole lives saying, "Oh, it's just property," trigger the ever-loving fuck out of me. That's just what happens when your mom/dad can instantly replace anything you've ever lost in your life, I guess. Destiny, fuck you. I'm a working class kid who grew up dirt poor. My father worked in a car factory. My mother worked in a coat hanger factory. Both of those jobs were shipped off the China. Thanks, capitalism. Yeah, and I'm just going to say this now. It's property, my man. It's property, okay? People dying for property is a bad thing. I'm not saying there are never situations where one would defend something that they own or whatever. Like, I get that there are potentially disproportionate responses to things or whatever, but people dying for property is ridiculous. You're a disgrace. Okay? So don't bring this like, oh, it's just rich kids say blah blah blah. It's a lot of bollocks. He's talking shit. Also, don't bring your identity politics. You cunt. Destiny says again. Put this into the context of Destiny's going to try and portray himself as like a reasonable human being, like he's just making a moral, philosophical argument about the Kenosha shooter and whether they were reasonably defending themselves and stuff. He's not. He's celebrating a fascist murderer. Destiny says, hopefully people out there in Kenosha are a little bit safer tonight, with at least 2 dangerous protesters out of the picture. You're a fascist cunt, aren't you, Destiny? And then, just to finish things off, he says, just in case there's any confusion, I am 100% in favour of militias forming to protect neighbourhood/business against riots at this point. If anyone ever wants to fight me on the position, you're welcome to, blah, blah,
They have my fucking blessing because the rioting needs to fucking stop. And if that means like white redneck fucking militia dudes out there mowing down dipshit protesters that think that they can torch buildings at 10 p.m., then at this point they have my fucking blessing because holy shit, this fucking shit needs to stop. It needed to stop a long time ago. Like, holy fuck.
So that's Destiny's reasoned position that white rednecks in militias can just go mowing people down. That'll calm the situation down, definitely. So what you're about to hear, because certainly at the beginning of this, he starts to try and be like, let's set out moral frameworks and blah blah. It's not a moral framework. He has a predisposition to fuck it, property matter more than people. I'm going to defend a fascist murderer. That's his whole thing. He's been celebrating it. Fuck him. Should we take a listen?
Real quick, I don't care. I never care in an argument when you say I personally, because clearly our life situations are very far
right. But we've been doing anecdotes for the last little while. I get anecdotes too. Come on.
Well, okay.
But anyways, so I don't think that Kyle would have been justified in murdering for someone else's property who he may or may not have known.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, there are other hypotheticals that I could test with, but yeah, I guess. Do you think that I'm curious on this last one.
Yeah, I mean, like,
if somebody was coming to set like a dog or cat on fire, do you think you could defend them with lethal force, or do you think that you should just accept that and walk away from it? Or do you think a human life can be traded for an animal life?
From the dogs I've had in my life, I'd probably defend them to the death.
Why do you think an animal life can be traded but not property?
Because the saxophone isn't sentient.
A saxophone isn't sentient. Now, the brilliant gotcha that Destiny tries after, which we probably won't get to because it's literally like one of the last things that gets said, is he then goes, "Are you a vegan?" Like, come on, fuck on. You're like, well, unless you're a vegan, you can't be against the murder of animals at all under any circumstances or something. Like, what the fuck? And someone pointed out, and I think it's a great point, this is Destiny, the great debater, the man that people are scared to take on. Like, I mean, I get that people might be intimidated by going in front of, he's got a large audience and stuff, but his argumentative style, I mean, you saw it with the debate with Vouch. Because Vouch learnt the same sort of rhetorical bullshit from Destiny, is that it's sort of dishonest, bad faith nonsense, Like, it's just his... I don't know, he's a hack, basically. Anyway.
And he's the good part that's trying to help me not be a bad guy. Okay, I'm engaging you in a good faith, high octane, high IQ argument where I'm going to be careful with what I say, and I'm going to be very patient. Okay? Let's go.
You don't...
Hang on, is my voice actually low? Shall I try unplugging and then replugging in my microphone again? Should we try that? The internet might explode, but I'll try it. Give me 1 second. Hello. Oop. Properties. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Is that any better? Oh, that's really fucking high now. Let's turn me down. Is that any better? Is that coming through any better? Am I still very deep voice head? Because that has happened before. Yes, it's a lot better. Someone saying worse. Don't troll me, for God's sake. That's noisier, certainly. More normal now. Oh, okay. So you've just gone deep for some reason. Still from Birmingham, so only so much you can do. Thanks. Yeah, that's legitimate, I suppose. It's not the sexiest accent. Kevin Earl Jones. Was it really that deep? Oh, wow. That does sound quite sexy, yeah. Sorry. I'm getting distracted. I need to get in the mood to talk about murder, and because it's Destiny, he brings up rape analogies, so content warning for all of those things.
You don't have to afford me any special courtesies. I wanna have the worst of it. You can give me the Super Saiyan
on Twitter, okay?
Yeah, I know. I saw it.
Okay, so all right, what do you got? Where are you at right now?
Where are you at right now? Look, I'm not going to spell out my position of defending a fascist. Let's just talk about your philosophical position.
Well,
where am I at?
On the Kenosha thing. Hit me up. What do we got?
Well, what do you want the jumping off point to be? Do you want to start talking about how...
I'm not sure if there is a moderator, but there's like another voice that appears like 20 minutes in or something. I'm not entirely sure who that person is, but they seem to be mostly siding with Destiny. But I don't know who they are. It doesn't really matter.
I think he was morally or not morally justified in what he did. It wasn't even an argument that I was entertaining before this whole rabbit hole started, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, what were you, what parts were you at? And I'll meet you where you're at. And then I'll see if we need to back up anymore.
Okay, so we had a kid who crossed state lines. I understand that it was only about a 10-minute drive, but still crossed state lines with a firearm that he was not legally allowed to possess. He entered an area to protect someone else's property. His official, the deposition of his lawyer, well, sorry, not deposition, but the statement of his lawyer says that he had received, or they had received, a call for help, whether that be through an internet Facebook post or an actual phone call. It's not stipulated. He then decided to go across state lines and defend that property. And then the footage, from what anyone can tell from the blurry footage, is that there was a gunshot fired. He then fired a gunshot. He killed a person. He got on the phone and said, "Hey, I've shot someone." And then other people saw him and started to chase after him. And they were trying to grab his weapon and hit him in the, shoulder with a skateboard. And he shot 2 of them dead and injured a 3rd. That's pretty much my recap.
Close enough. Yeah.
Okay. So where do we disagree there?
Yeah, so if that's close enough, I don't see that there's really a lot to argue. But he does, so I don't know. It's just kind of Weasley. He does a lot of Weasley bad faith shit in this.
Well, do you think based on the footage that we saw? So okay, well I'll state my position. Okay, here we go. My position is I believe that the first shooting I think was totally morally justified in terms of the kid felt threatened. The other guy was presenting a clear and present danger. I think it was fair for him to feel threatened. Feel like that shooting was in self-defense.
I will pause because I literally can't, because this is obviously pre-recorded, whereas they were talking live. Anyway, yeah, the whole point of like, oh, he was being chased. We don't know why he was being chased. Why is it that Kyle Rittenhouse, the murderer, who will very much be going to prison, I'm almost certain of that, given the legal the legal defense team he has, which is fucking batshit crazy, and the fact that the legal opinions I've heard from people seem, from people who would know such things, seem to think that the laws in Wisconsin are pretty clear about it, and he looks pretty guilty at this point. So, you know. But anyway, why is it that Kyle Rittenhouse is given by Destiny huge amounts of leeway for self-defense, but the people around him who aren't necessarily armed with guns, although I think one person was, but the one dude was armed with like a skateboard and the other with a Coca-Cola bottle in a bag, why they aren't allowed any leeway for defending themselves? Because we don't know what happened which led up to that situation. We only have that small snippet of film before the shootings, so we don't know if they're defending themselves. Why are they not allowed to defend themselves even though they are unarmed, but he is, even though he's heavily armed and needn't have been there? Would be my question.
Pause it there.
Yeah, go for it.
Why? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, okay, yeah, or we can go.
Well, it's easier for me.
No, 100%. I agree. Yeah. I'll just state my overall view, and then we can go point by point, sure. And then I think the next shootings were all in self-defense as well. Not too much more, but yeah, okay. Okay. So, so starting from the very first thing we see, it appears as though you have a kid that's running away, seems to be holding an assault rifle. You have another guy that's chasing after him for some seconds. Eventually, a shot is fired behind the two of them. The one guy, I need to remember this guy's name, is chasing Kyle. What's the name of the guy chasing Kyle?
If you remember. Off the top of my head, no, sorry.
Rosenbaum. Yeah, Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum, I think, right?
Rosenbaum, the guy that you spread far-right lies about, saying that he was a pederast, when there's no evidence to suggest he was that. Literally, the site you sourced, if we go back to Destiny's Twitter account for a second, hang on. Where are we? The site that Destiny sourced was a MAGA site. I wonder if that tweet's still up. The fuck? Oh, bit of nipple there. Banning people in my sleep in Copenhagen for a few days. Who's in Denmark? Okay. Anyway, where are we? He tried to smear the guy as a pedophile, and the only evidence he could put forward was literally a MAGA website. Where are we? The follow-up manifesto. What are you talking about? It's down here somewhere. I'm going to find this motherfucker. If it's still there. Maybe it isn't. I think he was responding to AOC or someone like that, I think. Where are we? Oh, here we. Hang on, is that it? Is that the thing I'm looking for? No. Where are we? He was responding. He was here earlier today, so unless he's like retweeted it or something, or deleted it even. Where are we? Come on, there we go. Right. So imagine defending a brave Antifa sex offender to own the right. Now, firstly, just even if you were a sex offender, which would be disgusting, of course, that doesn't give you the right to just shoot them in the street. For whatever reason, he's not in jail. you don't get to just shoot them. But look at the fucking thing. It's literally called archive.maga.host. MAGA host. With a fake criminal record thing. So, the dead person you tried to smear as a fucking pedophile. Rosenbaum. Yeah, you should probably remember that, Destiny. Just a thought. Anyway. Let's have a look.
Yeah, I guess. Do you
No, hang on. No. See, I'm confused with myself now.
It's chasing Kyle. Kyle and Rosenbaum hear a shot behind them. The Rosenbaum throws a bag or something at Kyle. Kyle turns around. The guy screams "fuck you," and then Kyle shoots him, I believe, 4 times.
Well, if you scream "fuck you" at someone, that definitely gives you the right to kill them. Definitely. And yeah, I'm being facetious there, I know, but like the fact that he gives a fuck about that tiny detail, but yet later on in the thing when Lance, who is the name of the person there from the Serfs. The Serfs are technically 2 people, but Dave's never there. I'm not sure he really exists, but Lance definitely exists. That's a joke, Dave does exist. Anyway, Lance brings up we don't know what happened before, so maybe those people were defending themselves. And Destiny's like, oh, that doesn't even matter. But the fact that he said "fuck you" is a detail worth noting. Like, oh, come on. So dishonest.
That's the first shooting. I think that, like, from looking at it, if you've got a guy that's clearly chasing after you, you hear somebody else shoot a shot behind you, you turn around, like you have a full-on adult male is still chasing you. I think it's fair to assume that there's a possibility this guy presents like serious bodily harm to you, and I think it's totally fair to defend yourself in that circumstance.
Mm-hmm. But like neither of us know what happened right before that shot, right? Like what he had been doing before that moment. Like it's all speculation at this point, right?
Yeah, while that's true, I would say that I would have to imagine some fantastical scenarios that justify him being chased for as long as he was.
For being chased as long as he was? All we see is he's chased for a few seconds. Like, it's not like they chased him down over miles across city blocks. He got on a train to the next state and then fucking hopped on a plane to Uruguay. Like, no, they chased him for a little bit, like for a few seconds, down a street. So it's not a fantastical scenario to imagine that maybe he pointed his fucking massive gun at some people and they were like, what the fuck, dude? And chased him. Which would be their right to do as self-defense. We're definitely not going to get through an hour's worth of this.
Another guy acting that aggressively, it's possible, but that would be like...
Yeah, but that guy's acting aggressively. This is the thing that annoys me, right? Carrying openly a massive fucking gun like that is already aggressive. You have pre-escalated the situation. Because when I walk past a random person in the street, if they're concealed carrying... Which, I mean, in Britain, no one carries fucking guns, but let's just say you're in America. You walk past someone, if they're concealed carrying, you don't assume that they're necessarily a threat because you can't see that they've got a fucking gun. Whereas if they're open carrying, they're already a threat to your life. That's a situation they have imposed upon you by carrying a big fucking gun right in your face. Now, I don't think that necessarily gives you a right to go and punch them in the fucking face and say it's self-defense or whatever, but they have pre-escalated. They have brought an air of tension to a situation. Now, put that into a situation where there's already a fucking riot happening. It's already a pretty tense, edgy scenario taking place there, right? No one is, like, absolutely calm in that scenario unless you're a psychopath. You see there someone with a massive fucking gun there, that's instantly, there's going to be an edge between you and that other person. There's going to be a situation of tension and threat. Because the person's got a fucking gun, a big rifle fucking thing in their hands. They have pre-escalated. They brought that into the situation.
That would be like a low percentage, single-digit percentage, like scenarios I can think of where that's happening.
So in your version,
well, I don't know how he's come to the determination that it's single digits as a percentage, but even if that's the case, let's say it's 5, 6, 7%, whatever. Why would that not be enough to give the benefit of the doubt to the possibility? Because you haven't just been like, oh well, I think it's morally acceptable. You have been celebrating the killing of 2 people in the street. That goes a little bit beyond just, well, I think it was morally justified. No, you have been actively celebrating and cheering that murder. Those murders, sorry. So that goes beyond that, frankly, Destiny. And it's dishonest for you to pretend otherwise.
Version of the narrative, do you think he was being chased based solely on the fact that he was an outsider with a gun? Was he like a white guy with a gun? Was he a young kid with a gun? Was he in an area where he shouldn't have been and they started chasing him because of that?
I had to, it's really hard to say. Like, I can think of several plausible scenarios. If I had to guess, like, there are multiple scenarios of equal likelihood. Maybe they were just mad that he was there with a gun. Maybe a couple protesters were arguing with a couple militia people and somebody singled out Kyle. Maybe somebody said something to him, or he said something to somebody else. People thought...
Yeah, maybe he did say something to someone. Maybe he threatened them. Now, if someone randomly in the street threatens you, that's not an issue. Because, oh, well, it's not necessarily a life-threatening issue. Whereas if someone with a gun threatens you, that's a significant fucking problem, especially if you don't have a gun, which these people mostly didn't. I think apparently one person did, but yeah, okay. The people that were shot didn't, or at least the people that were shot dead didn't. The one who got shot in the arm, I think, might have had a gun. Yeah, and maybe he didn't even need to say anything. He could have just been pointing his gun at people, which again is a very significantly threatening thing to do. We don't know. This is the thing. That's why I'm not going to say they were absolutely justified in chasing him, because I don't know what took place. He could have been perfectly innocently sat by the side of the road reading a newspaper with a rifle, which would be a very small percentage possibility, and they just randomly picked on him because he's a white man or something, right? Whatever right-wing fantasy you want to dream up. But in all likelihood, he had gone to a different state. No, it's not a million miles. It's like, was it 15 minutes away or something? So that's a little bit like odd, but it is still a part of the American law system, right? With a gun that he had illegally obtained, apparently, with fucking latex gloves on to stop the gun residue from getting on his hands. He clearly intended to shoot people. He wasn't going there to try and defend property. He was going there to shoot people. And then turned up and was apparently being aggressive towards people, is the story. Now, that suggests to me they had a justification for feeling threatened. Now, is it a proportionate response? I don't know, but Destiny basically cedes that ground later on by saying proportionality doesn't come into the situation, so I don't think he can even argue that point. But whatever.
Thought it was escalating. There are several circumstances where it's possible. Yeah, the words were exchanged or whatever, and then it led to that. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So based on that, neither of us know what happened before that, but we do know that a shot was fired and that he ended up killing someone. And you think he was doing it proportional, thinking that person was going to attack him.
I'm not comfortable with the word proportional because I don't believe that proportionality is like an important part of self-defense. Mm-hmm. I don't think most people do. Do you want to talk about that? Or
well, okay, hey.
Proportional, no, it's fine. If, for instance, someone throws, I don't know, a scrunched up piece of paper at you, you should be able to nuke their house. That's a totally proportionate response. What are you talking about? Of course proportionality exists. Now, the limits or the margins for error with proportionality when it comes to self-defense are obviously much greater, because when someone feels threatened, they're not necessarily going to act in an entirely logical fashion. But if someone threatens to do something to you and you then torture them to death, that's not an acceptably proportionate response. And I don't know anyone who would ever, even Destiny would surely say that that's not a proportionate response to the threat posed. Like, come on, proportionality does matter. But he's ceded that ground anyway, because, again, this is such a weird Destiny thing to do, of this is actual human beings who've been killed, but let's argue philosophical nonsense, because that's what's important here. Let's argue strange, ridiculous hypotheticals, because that's what matters here. Not the blood flowing through the streets of American cities. No, that's just fine and dandy. We need to celebrate and make funny memes about that. No, what we need to do is have abstract dialogue. Like, fuck off.
I'm going to say this right out of the gates because I'm very honest about these things. I'm not an armchair detective. Like, when I go down these rabbit holes, and this one I went down obviously pretty strongly because of you and the Vosh debate and everything that came from that. It's me on the sidelines trying to do the best I can to piece this together. When this is I don't even pretend to be an armchair politician, or sorry, like pundit, right? Like I'm a guy on the internet who talks on Twitch. So everything I'm piecing together is what I'm trying to do. I'm doing my best to reading these kind of documents, right? So I will be woefully out of my depth. If you want to come in here and you want to be like, Lance, can we go back and forth on each detail until we figure out what exactly happened? Like,
sure.
Let's do a true crime,
So to be super clear on this, I actually don't think that what happened prior to the video footage we've seen is that relevant. Let me be clear. When I said earlier that I could fantasize some scenarios, I'm thinking like Kyle literally says like, I'm gonna run 30 yards away, turn around and start shooting all of you guys. Like,
that doesn't have to be the case. Firstly, again, like I say, it's ridiculous that wouldn't be that's unimportant to him. Kyle Rittenhouse's right to self-defense is hugely important to Destiny. It's sacrosanct. The right of self-defense of anyone else in that scenario apparently isn't. So if Kyle Rittenhouse had literally done that and said, I'm going to shoot you all dead, they didn't have a right to try and disarm him from the obvious ability to be able to enact that threat. Their right to self-defense can fuck off. The right of self-defense of the murderer, oh yeah, that's sacrosanct. That can't be touched. That's sacred. What the fuck are you talking about? Libertarians are garbage. They really are. And again, when I say libertarian, I don't mean actual proper libertarian socialists, as the old phrase always was. I mean in the North American wrong sense. Okay? The rightist libertarians. The I'll basically do freedom until it annoys me and then fascism rules. That kind of person, which Destiny is showing himself rather conclusively to be in recent days. Yeah, it's nonsense. It's absolute fucking nonsense. And again, the proportionality thing comes into it, because I don't know if them responding in the way they did to Kyle Rittenhouse is a proportionate response, because I don't know what took place before that. No one does at the moment. It's possible we never will, because maybe the information that we would need was inside the brains of people who are now dead because of Kyle Rittenhouse. Who knows? But the proportionality does matter, okay? Because you can't say on the one hand it doesn't matter what happened before the video took place, and then say but it was proportionate that he shot them dead, or that it was okay that he shot them dead, because that would be based on the proportionality to the threat he felt. If he did genuinely feel threatened and there was no necessary reason for that, then what he did was commit murder. Oh, sorry. If he felt threatened and there was a necessary reason for him to feel threatened, and he turned around and does that, then that wouldn't necessarily be murder. That could be argued as self-defense. But A, we don't know what took place before, and B, he put himself in that scenario. He was the aggressor before he'd even spoken. Look, it's possible he didn't speak at all to any of these people. He was already the aggressor by bringing that weapon into that scenario when he needn't be there. You know.
Like, even if Kyle displayed some aggressive manner or said some fucked up shit or whatever, I still don't know if that ever justifies chasing him for as far as he did.
See, that's the thing. It doesn't matter what anyone else did to what Kyle did to anyone else. Chasing someone for 10 paces is not justified, whereas shooting people dead is justified. That's a totally logically and morally consistent position, if you're an idiot.
I don't know how you can justify that. That just seems insane to me. Like, typically when somebody's running away, usually like you back off, you're done. That's what I would consider. But even if that happened, I would think those would be the majority of cases. The minority of scenarios. It seems more likely that the other guy just appears to have been acting very aggressively, especially based on the other videos we've seen at this point.
Whereas taking a gun to a riot and shooting 2 people dead, that's not acting aggressively. That's fine. Libertarianism is just wank. Oh god, we're going to get through 10 minutes of this, I bet you.
I know you're super busy on vacation. Did you get a chance to watch Riley Grace Rochong's video on the subject? She made one that was like...
No, what did she say?
Okay, so
you can give me your arguments.
Okay, sure. Well, I can't because it's like an hour and 12 minutes, but she actually went through all of the different like case laws, statute laws, the like specific laws to Kenosha, and like broke the whole thing apart and itemized it for like people like me who, again, I'm on the sidelines on this, right? And like time and time again, the conclusions she was coming to, and again, she's a law student. She does not try to like give legal advice or anything like that. Was that he did not have justification in terms of the right to self-defense in this particular scenario.
There's two things here. One, I'm making moral arguments, not legal arguments.
Bear that in mind, because he does make legal arguments later. So he's only making moral arguments when it suits him, and then making legal arguments when it suits him. And if they try and bring up the legality of it, because frankly at this point I'm over the caring about the morality of it particularly. I want this motherfucker jailed, so the law does matter. And it matters anyway, because of course if you're in front of a court and you try and argue the moral case, the lawyers will laugh at you. That doesn't really mean anything. It's what the letter of the law is and what precedent is and all the rest of it. But yeah, he's just slippery as fuck and tries to pivot away from any position where he might, like, it's always him trying to get a gotcha and trying to avoid a gotcha, which isn't really honest debating. That's shithousery.
Two, I'm very curious what you would have thought about Ben Shaver, because the cop that murdered him was completely acquitted of all charges. So I'm not really concerned about the legal argument, because I don't believe that whatever a court decides is necessarily the moral outcome. As we've seen time and time again, if BLM teaches us anything, it's that oftentimes the legal outcomes aren't necessarily the moral ones. And then also I'm more interested in the moral argument here, because I believe, even if people say other things, I believe that most people are more interested in the moral argument of defending yourself rather than are you.
Regardless of what people say, Destiny knows what you really think. Which is totally not like the religious argument of, well, everyone knows really that there's a God. They might say they're atheists, but really they know there's a God. Like, how do you falsify that nonsense?
Legally justified in doing so. I'm sorry, wait, Daniel Shaver, what did I say? Did I say Ben Shaver? Okay, never mind, sorry.
Yes, Riley Grace Rushong is awesome, by the way. You should go and follow her. She's a law student who does, like, she's a debate bro without being a debate bro, if that makes sense. Like, she does debates and talks with various people, and she's very good.
Yeah, but keep
okay.
on.
So when it comes down to it, you don't want to talk about the legal standpoint. You just want to talk about whether or not he was morally justified.
Yeah, was he morally justified in defending? Yeah, defending.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait, did I say Ben Shapiro? I'm sorry. Keep going. People are saying dumbass shit in chat. Sorry, keep going.
Dumbass people in Destiny chat.
But anyways, yeah, if you're just asking my opinion, because that's the basis of what you want to get at here, because I think you want to talk about property more than you want to talk about this, right? But if you're asking about
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and we'll go down that. But
of course he wants to talk about property. He's a libertarian. That's all they ever want to talk about is fucking property. Things matter, people don't matter. Well, unless it's them personally. That's the libertarian mantra.
If you're asking about the basis of whether or not I think he was morally justified, I personally don't. Like, I say no for a handful of reasons. One, I don't think he was defending property that belonged to him. If you're going to say, Lance, you own a mom and pop operation and you're standing in front of it because there's riders coming towards your store and you want to defend your mom and your dad, either them or the property, that's one case. The other case being if you want to travel to somewhere else.
If I was to make one criticism of the Serfs, or of Lance, in this one area, I don't think that's a distinction that needs to be made necessarily. I think you can have a connection to someone that isn't necessarily familial and want to defend their life and their property potentially. The argument, if you're going to have a moral argument here, which Destiny is set on doing, because he can't win the legal argument, that's pretty safe on the matter. Killing people is not necessarily always illegal, but is at least frowned upon, let's say, within the legal system, especially if you're not like super rich. You can get away with it then, that's fine, unless you kill another super rich person. Anyway, let's not get bogged down in your class reductionism, Kev. Anyway, yes, if the distinction between doing it to protect a mom and pop store or doing it to protect anything, like, is defending property with your life necessarily correct or whatever? Like, now there's an actually interesting discussion to be had, because I'm not entirely sure I've got a set view on this. Like, during the course of this discussion, it did make me think, like, well, in that scenario, what would I do? And there would definitely be scenarios into which I would defend potentially property with my life in a number of scenarios, potentially, because it's about a much bigger principle than the point of the property. Like, Destiny literally brings up, I don't know if we'll get to it because it's a bit further into the thing, but he brings up Kristallnacht, which, for those who don't know, was the Night of the Broken Glass, which was in Germany. It was a night that where the Nazis specifically incited anti-Jewish riots, and German Nazis went around destroying the property and beating up and murdering Jewish people. It's an infamous thing to the point where the night's got its own fucking name and it lives in infamy and will forever. Now that was a riot, so in that sense you can compare the two, but it's slightly ridiculous, right? Because in that scenario, to defend those Jewish people isn't to defend their property necessarily, because their property, like any property, can be replaced. It's property, it's not a human life. Human life can reproduce, of course, but an individual, once they are dead, is dead. That's it, right? That can't be replaced. You can't bring back Uncle Dave, who got murdered in the fucking riot or whatever, right? So defending Jewish property on that occasion is about defending something much, much bigger. That being the right of Jewish people to exist. Okay? So in that scenario, I would defend private property. Because it's not about the private property. It's about defending the human beings and the rights of the human beings, right? And just basic human decency and anti-fascism. Which I can't expect that last point to sit well with Destiny in many respects, which is odd because he used to do really good work, arguing against Nazis, and now he's defending Nazi murderers. Brilliant, fantastic, fuck's sake. Anyway, so yeah, there are scenarios under which I would defend with my life potentially private property because it's about something bigger. But is taking a gun to a different place and shooting 2 people dead under the auspices of defending property? Because let's be honest, the dishonesty at the heart of the Rittenhouse defenders' defence of Rittenhouse is the fact that he didn't go there to defend property. He went there to kill leftists. He went there to kill Black Lives Matter supporters. We know that. It would be difficult to prove it again, because how can one know inside another person's heart? But given what we do know about the man and it's not even man, the boy, technically child, and the way in which they went about their business and the way they approached the situation, it seems pretty clear to me that he went there to murder people. He's been charged with intentional homicide. We'll see if that sticks, or whether he's also been charged with reckless homicide, which seems a far more open and shut case, because I don't know that a well-armed militia decide to fire at random people in a crowd whilst sat on their ass, clearly not in a stable physical position. That's not really a well-armed militia manoeuvre. I don't think that's in the army handbook. Anyway, so yeah. So, I mean, genuinely, if you want to leave your thoughts below about whether you would ever defend private property for any reason whatsoever, by all means do. But anyway, yeah. And it is on a sort of case-by-case basis, isn't it? Anyway, but yeah. Look, I'm not usually one to fish for comments, because I don't give a fuck about the algorithm, clearly. But if you want to leave your thoughts on that, I'd be genuinely interested to hear them. Unless you're a libertarian, in which case I kind of already know your fucking thoughts on it, you're an idiot. But whatever. Is that going to play? Where's my cursor gone?
Defend a stranger's property, that to me is you're kind of defending like an ideology of property, right? Like the idea that all property is under assault within these communities, and I have to defend them because there was a lot of
Wait, so let's go through this right now. Do you think that it's ever valid that you might want to defend property in your community that either you or your family doesn't directly own?
Hang on, sorry.
Under
time out. Right. I shouldn't respond to random people in the chat, but this is an annoying comment. Someone in the chat says, if you're an atheist, don't you have to believe in scientific racism? No. What the fuck does that mean? Are you all Antifa and atheists? Well, I am both of those things, but I can't speak for anyone else here. That's just, I mean, that's, I'm sorry, Jameer, that's a really dumb comment. Oh, and it's been deleted. Wow. Well, I'm glad I saw it in the first place then. Anyway, yeah, that's nonsense. Don't talk shit, you know. No, I don't believe in scientific racism because it's not scientific. It is racism, though, and I'm not a fan of racism, so... Well, unless it's against white people, obviously, because this is the anti-white channel. I am the biggest anti-white of them all, apparently, so... What do I know? Oh, scientific racism is the idea that there's some science behind white supremacy, basically. Often to do with, like, skull shapes and brain sizes and things. It's nonsense. Yeah. Are you familiar with the Tony Martin case? I am. Yes. That is an interesting case, I suppose. Yeah. The Tony Martin case was it as far back as 1999? Good lord. He shot a burglar in his home. That is technically true, but wasn't the burglar running away or something? So wasn't there like wasn't there some sort of question as to whether that was justified or not? But like I've always said, if someone breaks into your house, like it's not absolutely fair game for everything, but I think you lose a lot of your rights at that point, you know. But anyway, if my neighbour comes over with his rifle to defend my house, can I shoot him? No. What? Why are we shooting? Stop shooting people! Jesus. Oh, hello, Christo. Oh yeah, we'll do it tomorrow night. We're doing a happy hour, so we'll be discussing some things. I don't know what yet. Just things. Dickie Brain is the anti-white people are, but indeed, and he decided that you, Christy Winters, are the biggest of the anti-whites. But I'm coming for your crown. This is the anti-white hour with Kev and Christy. I don't know what I'm talking about now.
Under the threat of death.
What do you mean by that?
Like, do I think someone has a right to kill someone else over property that they don't own?
Yeah.
Okay, my answer is that would be no, I don't.
So let's say, for instance, I'll throw out one historical example. Let me go through hypotheticals. Sure. Do you think that, like, the Korean communities that were defending their stores during the LA riots, do you think that they should have just let their communities be burned to the ground?
No, but again, they were defending their stores, right?
No. For a lot, the majority of those people there were like part of the Korean community. Not every single Korean there was like a.
And that's what I mean when I'd say if there is one slight criticism of the Serfian approach to this, if I can call it that, would be that it doesn't, for me, the distinction of whether it's your property or not is basically irrelevant. Is the defense of property in itself worthy of murder? Now, if you're defending property and someone alights upon you in order to try and get at the property, that becomes a different thing. But whether the property is yours or not is, I think, a rather moot point.
Property owner.
Oh, so you're saying this as a collective.
Yeah.
So as a collective Korean community, they all had a right to shoot because they were forming a small militia, if you will, right? Like, I guess it applies here, right? A militia, if you will. And so you're saying that applies to the same scenario where...
I'm not in charge of the soup distribution. As the CEO of Antifa Inc. PLC Limited, TM, I deal with, like, you know, the more general stuff, like you know, supply lines. I deal with, you know, revenue streams of soup. Distribution deals with distribution. Jesus. It's like these other people saying, where are the Soros checks? Oh, does it look like I'm in payroll? I'm the CEO. Jesus.
A kid drove, and I know
No, I'm not even going that far. I'm just very, very, very simple, very direct. Do you think that, like, the Korean people during the LA race riots, that community was okay to step up and defend those stores, or should they have let them be burned to the ground?
I don't think you can apply a yes or no answer to this. I think and I'm not trying to be Weasley, my answer to this would be it depends on a case-by-case basis. It depends. Like, if one guy was in a community that was, like, blocks away, barely knew anyone, and he showed up and he just wanted to, like, defend his favorite, like, I don't know, the store that was to his liking, that's different to me than someone who's like, I'm directly defending my mom and pop store, or my neighbor's mom and pop store, or my close relative's mom and pop store. Like, there can't be a one-size-fits-all answer to this.
Okay, I'm not looking for a one-size-fits-all, so that's...
Yes, you are, Destiny. That's a lie. The thing you just said is a lie. And just for if anyone's interested, I've got no problem with people defending their stores. Like in that scenario, the Korean people seemed. I mean, I'm not an expert in the topic, but it seems like they were justified in doing that. The point is, Kyle Rittenhouse wasn't trying to defend property; he was trying to kill people. I think that's pretty obvious.
Why I've got a very, very, very. I'm not asking you to extrapolate to anything else or to make any absolute moral. I'm just saying, in this particular case, if there is a community of people who feel threatened, do you think that they have a right to band together as a community to defend their property against other people that would have that property destroyed? And that I'm using the Koreans during the LA race riots that camped on top of their roofs with rifles to threaten people that would attack their property.
Yeah, I would say it would be case specific.
Okay, in this case, would you say that that's a morally justifiable position if they were to kill somebody that would come to set their stores ablaze?
So in your specific case,
I think you have to give warning as well. For instance, like, I don't think you can just sit on your roof and if someone walks toward your store for some reason, you're allowed to shoot them. You have to say, look, I've got a gun. If you come near my fucking store, I'm killing you. If you give that warning and they still continue, all bets are off. Like that. I think that's it's a rather different thing than what Kyle Rittenhouse was doing. So I mean, I can't say I'm an expert in every instance of Korean people shooting folk in the LA riots, but it seems like a justified thing to try and defend your community, especially if you feel like your community is being targeted in some way, which apparently they did, but I don't know. I don't know if they were being targeted, but they felt they were, so whatever.
I don't know every single situation involving that, right? Like during the Korean riots, can you paint it for me? Was there an instance where one person knew, like, was it a one block environment?
Like Rodney King or whatever. There were a whole.
Hang on, this dickhead's back in chat. So right, the Soviet Union, German Third Reich, Charles Darwin, IQ, and genetic studies as atheists believe in scientism. That doesn't mean anything. That's nonsense. You're an idiot. I'm sorry, Gia. You're an idiot. I don't even know where to begin. Korean shopkeepers have every right to defend their community. Yeah, I said that, didn't I? I think. Did I not say that? Internet Nazis do love that because, it was largely black people being shot. So that's why far right people love it. But that doesn't mean that they were unjustified in defending their communities. The Turks defended shops during the London riots. They didn't hurt anyone, though. See, that's the point. When you're defending property, you're supposed to be actually trying to defend property. You don't want to kill people. You'd want to, actually defend property. The Korean people, it seems, by and large, I can't speak for every individual, seemed like that's precisely what they were trying to do. I don't know the example of the Turkish people that's been mentioned, but that wouldn't surprise me either. And if they didn't hurt anyone, good. Cool, they defended their shit and they didn't kill anyone. Awesome. Whereas Kyle Rittenhouse went there specifically to kill people. I don't think there was any thought in his mind of defending anyone. He was there being a little fucking right-wing revolutionary or whatever. Wanted to go and kill him some BLM folk. That's what he was there to do. Anyway.
Whole bunch of people rioting. LA was
I know the history of the LA riots. I'm asking you.
Yeah,
you're asking specifically about the Korean stores, right? So I want to know.
Yeah.
In these Korean stores.
So like basically, a few Koreans, they own some stores. They put out like a call to their community, like, guys, shit is getting crazy. We really don't want our businesses burned to the ground. These are family-owned businesses. Like, this is our life's work. Like, can you guys please, like, grab a few guns, go to whatever's house, like, show up. Let's like defend our property to make sure that people don't come and like destroy our shit because this is all we have.
Sure. I think you're endangering their personal lives. If you're endangering like their personal, like the families, all of that, yes, you have the right to defend yourself. Do you have a right to defend yourself against the property that you don't personally own? I personally say no. That's my standpoint.
So then if you have to watch other people in your community, so like there's two Koreans that go, do you think it's unethical for them to ask for help? Do you think that like communities can never like defend each other in that sense, that they just have to sit by and watch only individuals go by and defend their property?
And this is the thing, actually. You can feel obviously an affinity for somewhere that isn't necessarily your home, but if you travel there specifically to do this, that seems a little odd. Now, I don't know if he necessarily knew the store owner or whatever. Apparently he had or did work in Kenosha sometimes. Or the details are a little sketchy. But So he did have some connection to Kenosha, even though it was in like a different state, because he only lived just across the border or whatever. America's a geographically odd place. Although I suppose borders exist everywhere, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so the fact that he's travelling there, he's not defending his streets. He's travelled there illegally, and again, Destiny actually even brings up at one point, these people were breaking a curfew. A, I thought you were making a legal argument, and B, so was Kyle Rittenhouse. Why is he allowed to shoot people when he should not even be there at that time? He should be indoors somewhere, probably in his hometown, I imagine. But anyway, why is he allowed to be there and shoot people? You give him the benefit of the doubt and celebrate his acts, but these other people who were killed whilst not killing anyone else, they aren't afforded that. I think you might be a piece of shit, Destiny. I don't know about you. Fucking hell.
So are they allowed to call for help if someone's like attacking them personally?
Yeah, like are they allowed to call for help? Like other examples that I could think of this,
of course, but
maybe it would be like disproportionate. Like what about like what's it called? Was it Crystal Knock? I only know about this because of the dumb Nazi shit I read, but basically it was the night in Nazi.
That's quite. I mean, I suppose technically America isn't Europe, so why would they learn European history? But the Second World War was important, wasn't it? Like, why is that only a thing you're now learning? Sure, we learn about that shit in high school. Look, not in massive detail in high school because it's fucking high school, but like, yeah, we learned about that when we were like 14, 15 or some shit. Destiny's a man in his 30s, 40s, whatever, and he's only just learning now, and his details are very, very sketchy on this. But yeah, Kristallnacht was, as previously described, Nazis inciting a riot, killing and destroying Jewish property. Well, killing Jewish people, beating them up, dragging them in the streets, humiliating them, destroying, burning property. Yeah, which, like I say, is a riot, but there's a slight difference in that that was government targeted, so I don't know that realistically the Jewish people could have defended themselves to any effective degree. Many of them fucking tried. Give them their due. Give them their due on this matter. You have to just. So a lot of the times Americans misunderstand when I say the DUE version of Jew. Which I don't usually correct myself on, but when I'm talking about Jewish people, I think it's fair to try. Anyway, I'm getting wrapped up in nonsense now. I will give them their credit, and many of them did try. But when it's a government-backed situation, you have the SS and the fucking brown shirts and all these fucking evil cunts stacked against you. There's no real way you can defend yourself in any effective manner as a community. Because part of that would be on the people in Kenosha have like police in theory. I mean, let's not get into the exacts of what the police actually do, but in theory they're there to like protect people and shit. And so they take like the bulk of the situation, and then the other people defending their property would be like an auxiliary extra layer of protection, hopefully against rioting and looting and all the rest of it. Whereas in that situation, not only are the police definitely not coming to help you, they're actively colluding with the people who are fucking you over and participating themselves. So there's no real way you can defend yourself in that scenario. So although it is a riot, therefore comparable on some level, the idea that you would throw that into the mix is pretty... Well, I don't know, it's ignorant on this occasion, because he's literally saying I don't know a lot about it. So it's not necessarily dishonest, but it's certainly ignorant as fuck. And for you to throw something as delicate as the beginnings of the Holocaust, and this, I mean, the Kristallnacht is undoubtedly a part of at least the precursor to the Holocaust, even if you don't necessarily want to define it as the Holocaust. Although I think you're wrong on that. It's a historically nuanced point. Anyway, to throw something as delicate as that into the mix when you're talking about this, when you clearly, as Destiny says, he's only just learned about this because of the Nazi shit he's been rocking at, is questionable. It's pretty edgy nonsense. Which, look, being edgy on the internet is nothing new, but when it comes to like Nazi shit, actual, like, not just they're right wingers on the internet Nazi type nonsense, the Hitler Nazi people killing Jewish folk and destroying their property. You need to be a little more delicate with the use of that if you're going to be making serious moral arguments. I don't think that's too much to ask. When you want to get on here and jump into your pseudo intellectual bullshit about I'm making moral arguments, blah blah blah, to bring up the fucking Holocaust as a cheap throwaway talking point when you admit you don't know about it, stop. Just fucking stop.
To Germany, where they basically said like, hey, if you guys want to go fuck up Jewish property, listen, I'm not telling you to do it, but if you do it, we're not going to do shit about it. Do you think in that case, like, Jewish people would have had a right to call out to their community, even if they didn't directly own property and have guns and defend it against like would-be destroyers? Or for Black Wall Street, do you think they had a right to call?
Oh yeah, to the person that I know the term riot is, when applied to Kristallnacht, is a cover for state-sanctioned violence. Absolutely, yeah. No, I think I explained that. I don't know if you wrote that comment before I did, but yeah, that's essentially exactly what it was. Yeah, but when I say riot, it in a very, very literal sense rather than in a real practical sense, accounts like it meets the criteria of what you would describe a riot as, like widespread public disorder. But yeah, it was absolutely state-sanctioned violence against a religious minority for murderous intent. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, but he also brings up Black Wall Street, so there isn't a single ethnic minority he won't throw under the bus for his own moral bullshit. Or immoral bullshit, I suppose.
People to help against would-be, white attackers destroying their property. Do you think in general it's okay for people that don't directly own property to show up and help defend community property?
Right. Yeah. So this comes down to, how do we define community? Because in this example, because if it all boils down to Kenosha, I would like to know, in your definition, how does his idea of community pertain to that property that was out?
Yeah, it seemed like Kenosha was a community that he belonged to. It was like it was like a community of people that he knew. I think he was a lifeguard there. Like, it's like the area that he grew up in. Like, yeah, it's as much a community as like any other person would say, like, I belong to this community.
So in that case, he has a right to take up arms for a third person's property. Like, I can go over to a gas station and defend it.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah.
Not only do I follow the Auschwitz Museum on Twitter, I gave them Nazi money. That sounds like an odd thing to say. For those who don't know, either on the Twitch or new to my YouTube, I took part in very briefly, I suppose, in the infamous Sargon versus Richard Spencer debate, because Sargon was doing such a bad job. I jumped on and hopefully landed a few interesting philosophical blows against Nazi shitbags. Anyway, because that made so much money, the host of that show, Andy Warski, who is basically a Nazi prick himself, anyway, gave out like a portion of the money to each of the participants, and I can't even remember how much it was, like $70, $100, whatever it was. Yeah, I did a poll on my thing and was like, which Jewish charity should I give this to? Because I don't want Nazi money, Jesus. So I sanctified it by giving it to a Jewish charity, and it was the Auschwitz Museum, which technically isn't a Jewish-run charity, a charity or whatever. But yeah, that was good. And I also got to tell Millennial Woes to his face that I was giving that money to a Jewish charity, and he gave me the best. He went, "Oh, that's very amusing," and I thought, yes, I'm under his skin. Good, fuck him, Nazi cunt. I also got him to snap as well when I said that white nationalism wasn't ever going to work and these were sad, pathetic losers, and he started shouting. It was a lot of fun. The hint wasn't for you, Kevin, it was for everyone else. Alright. Jesus, Tony! He's on my balls constantly. But thank you.
That's part of the community. I mean, I would argue that you could actually go further than that, but we're not at that level. But like, just in terms of like just being this community, like, yeah, I think he has a standing there. Like, yeah, this is my community, I belong to it. Like, yeah.
What makes that community? Just out of curiosity.
I mean, like, it gets hard to specifically define, but I would imagine it's like some group of people that you probably are familiar with, that you see on a daily basis, that you've grown up with, that you know, like, oh yeah, like I know the guy that owns that gas station. I know like his daughter. I know the family that runs this area. Like, oh yeah, like I've been on that street a ton. We know these people. Like, it's probably like the people that you grew up around and like are closely associated with and affiliated with growing up. Yeah.
If it turned out that he did,
oh yeah, if it looks blocky and shit on the screen, that's not the Serfs. I've turned it down to the minimum so that my bitrate doesn't get fucking absolutely shagged senseless. Not that it's struggling tonight. I won't mention that we've dropped 0 frames. Oh shit, I just did. Because last time I did that tempted fate and it crashed. But so far, yeah, nothing. So that's good. But I'm not gonna push it. I'm not gonna push it real good. Dun 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 dun. Anyway, so I've left it at 144p because the visuals are irrelevant. The 2 voices are the only thing we need to actually hear.
Didn't actually know any of these individuals because we don't know. You and me don't know. But it turns out he doesn't know any of them. He was just going there for the idea of policing another community. Would you still stick to that argument? Would you still?
And again, but Destiny's like, oh well, he already, he felt part of this community. Destiny doesn't know that. He wants to celebrate this murderer because my guns and my property, because that's literally all that libertarians think about. Well, that and weed and Bitcoin and child pornography. Anyway, yeah, not that I'm saying that Destiny necessarily supports CP, but that's a general libertarian thing, isn't it? Anyway, there was that fantastic meme that went around about the Netflix show that had the weird sexualized poster of kids and the 4 political quadrants, and it was like all the authoritarian right, authoritarian left, and libertarian left were like, oh, that's disgusting, and then the libertarian right were like, oh yeah, this is awesome, because they do like them some sexualized kiddies. They're evil. Anyway, yes, Destiny wants to give the benefit of the doubt to the murderer, but not to the murdered. He's going to say, like, oh, they turned up and he turned up there to defend property, when clearly he didn't really do that. The fact that he may or may not have felt a connection to the community is irrelevant, because Destiny doesn't know that. He can't know that at this point. But yeah, anyway.
Say that wasn't like the
we're not at that. We're not.
But I know. I'm asking you hypotheticals.
I would. Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
But I want to see if I can get you on this first one. Not get
Sure.
you, but I'm just curious if you would agree with the very first level.
No, he does mean get
Sure.
you.
Like like he worked as a lifeguard in Kenosha. Like it's like a community that was pretty close by. To use an example of my own life, I grew up like in Omaha, Nebraska, and there's a city in Iowa. It's like 20 minutes away. It's Council Bluffs. But I wouldn't say that these are like totally separate.
Hang on, did he literally support Ron Paul? Is that true? Oh God. Ugh. Oh, he was a Ron Paul supporter. Oh, that's gross. Ugh.
Completely separate areas. Like you can live like 15-20 minutes away from an area and like kind of grow up next to each other and be affiliated with communities. Like that's totally possible. Sometimes to like city people, like living 15 miles away or 10 miles away, that seems like a world apart. But in rural communities, like it's not necessarily like that crazy to imagine that like
Is Kenosha that rural? I thought it was like a proper town. I don't know, it doesn't really matter.
15 minutes away is like a community that you grew up in. But yeah.
Okay. But sorry, you were talking about Nebraska because you want to bring in the fact that like I understand. I'm thinking, and I don't want to like steel man you here, but I'm thinking you think the idea that I'm talking about property in this respect, that I don't think someone should die trying to defend a television or a car radio or something like that. That comes from kind of like a privileged position where I can afford to buy another TV. Like my TV is not my entire life, Like
I want to make sure I'm drawing a careful distinction between like, should you do something that maximizes versus like, are you morally justified for it? Like for instance, if I thought that if I was in the process of getting raped, I would probably let it happen. But if somebody wanted to fight back and try to kill their rapist, I think they're morally justified in doing so, even if that's probably not like the smartest decision.
See, now he's got a kernel of a point there, but the fact that he has to go to, I'm going to just instantly do a rape analogy is weird. That's weird. Someone asks in the chat, what is wrong with answering violence with violence? It is a case-by-case basis. The instance that Destiny just brought up of a person being raped, I think that's perfectly justified to answer that violence with violence of your own. So I'm not saying that I'm certainly by no means a fucking pacifist. Not that I'm necessarily hate or anything pacifists, but I think pacifism isn't really practical. I'm by no means that at all. I think there are certain situations, as far as I'm concerned, to which only violence is the responsible answer. I think if fascists turn up on your doorstep, violence is the only answer that they will begin to understand. It seems to me you can't reason Nazis out of Nazism because they weren't reasoned into Nazism. Okay, so I think there are perfectly reasonable uses of violence against violence, because sometimes that's the only response you can do. You can reasonably do. To not act with violence towards that kind of violence, I think, would be capitulation, which is not my style. And someone said, "Oh yeah, 100,000 people live in Kenosha," which I wish I'd known, because Destiny literally goes on about this being like, oh, well, in rural parts of Tennessee and people, they know everyone knows everyone. In a town of 100,000 people, everyone does not know everyone. Jesus. Yeah, that's not a small town. That's a perfectly reasonable sized place. Fucking hell.
Right? Like, but those are two totally separate things, and I don't want to get into the, like, you know, should you to maximize your life? We could talk about that. I'm just talking about, like, are you morally justified in doing it? Like, do you have moral standing there?
Yeah, well, this is what I mean about him being dishonest, because his whole point isn't just that there's moral justification for what Carl Rittenhouse did. He's been celebrating it as if this was an outright good thing. This wasn't just a morally justifiable thing, this was an entirely positive thing. Which I don't know that there's any justification for that doesn't make you a Nazi, really, because you're doing Nazi apologia. Or fascist apologia, technically. And there's a technical difference, whatever.
Of course, but again, that's why my answer to that is it depends on the case. Like in terms of the law, that's the way the law looks at it. In terms of my moral judgment,
I don't want to talk about. Yeah, I don't want to talk about the law. I'm just saying that in this case, where he sees the community of Kenosha, he feels like he belongs to the community. If he sees that his community is being torched and business is being destroyed,
and he doesn't want to talk about the law, even though his whole basis for what private property is defended by the law. His right to own a gun is protected by the law.
And somebody puts out a call like, hey, there's anybody that just wants to have like a small show of force so that people go in another neighborhood or whatever, like, could you please come by and help or whatever? If he responded to that call, do you think that he has like moral standing to be there?
Well, no, because like it's not his community. You're painting the idea
that...
Who
are you to say that?
Well, exactly. That comes from both of us, right? Like you're saying...
no, he was literally a lifeguard there. It seems to me that like that seemed to be his community. Like he had like roots in that community. I think that there were like literally like Snapchat stories earlier of him like scrubbing like graffiti off of walls and shit in that area and what.
Oh, that's okay then. He was scrubbing walls. Although I did like some of the memes of people saying like, oh, here's what was it? There was here's one of John Wayne Gacy as a nice clown, and here's a picture of what's his name, the fucking cult leader that died a couple of years back. Oh, my mind's gone blank. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, basically there were pictures of like, oh, here's like a famous murderer person doing the dishes and stuff, you know. Ted Bundy was the guy who was doing the dishes, but the other guy is the one who killed Sharon Tate. That fucking lot. God, my mind. Why does my mind go blank? That's Charles Manson. Fucking hell. I forgot the name of Charles Manson. I just said that quite loud. I hope my neighbours aren't listening going, why is he shouting about Charles Manson? Fucking lunatic. Yeah, don't let the kids out in the garden. He might actually kill them or something. Anyway. Nah, my neighbours are cool.
Not like
he was, yeah.
We know they've got a loud flushing fucking toilet, but other than that,
like there was footage of that too, and like him going around being a medic. I saw the entire string of the New York Times article that you posted. There was also
interesting. The police didn't kick his medical supplies out of the way. BLM supplies though, yeah, fuck those guys.
So in those same videos, by the way, there was clips of him walking up to other members saying, hey, by the way, do you guys need medical attention? And then they would respond with, I remember you. You were the one who was like pointing the gun at us. Like, I wanted to play that clip as well.
I haven't seen that clip, but if that clip exists, that's pretty damning.
Well, but I don't think that he's completely innocent. Like the idea that like that's a strange narrative to me to think that there was this.
I'm not asking. Yeah. So again, this is what I'm trying to. So like when you say he's not completely innocent,
it's not 480p. You wish it was 480p. That's 144p. Motherfucker. We've gone like old. It's like 8-bit. This is fucking 8-bit streaming, motherfucker. Okay? Because I'm not trusting shit on the bitrate. Okay? If there's a video I need to play that's got like strong visuals, but yeah, so few P being the word for female genitals, naturally. Anyway, wet ass pixels.
I think that there are, I hate to use the rape example, but there are women that get raped that are
He hates to use the rape example, except he does it all the time.
completely innocent, but that doesn't mean that they should have been raped, and they have no moral standing to oppose that, right? It's possible that he made decisions that were poor, and it's possible that he even did things that were immoral, potentially, but that doesn't mean that he should have submitted himself to attackers. That's why.
Although you did try and use the smear against Rosenbaum of him being a child molester, which by all accounts isn't true, but you did try and say like, oh well, you shouldn't defend him because he was a pederast, even though that doesn't give you a right to just murder them in the streets.
I'm trying to keep all of these things like completely disaggregated and be like very specific and very particular with exactly what I'm talking about. So my to refocus, my very specific question is if he did feel, I'm not saying like, oh well, he wasn't part of it. I'm saying if he did feel like he was part of that community, do you think that it's okay for him to respond to a call for help to defend somebody else's property?
To defend, yes, not with lethal. Basically, well, I don't think he has a right to kill people for other people's property.
This is not dial-up. This is the narrowest broadband there's ever been. Okay? No, it is actually broadband. It's just shit.
Could I jump in?
Sure, yeah, sorry.
Maybe?
Go for it.
So, like, I think we can set aside the community thing maybe. So what Destiny is saying is that rural communities are probably going to look at that word very differently. And you may be surprised at how widespread their idea of what a community is compared to your own. And it's easy to see like similarities and
does it
people
say who this
love
person
and
is
all those
below?
sorts of things across a pretty wide area. Like even where I live in California, if I lived in Northern California for a time and I had some connection to that place, even if it's hundreds or thousands of miles away, if I went there and defended that, I think you could call that a community. I think what we really want to focus on is this like defense of property thing, because also he didn't kill somebody in defense of a building. He killed someone in defense of his personhood. The attacker wasn't just breaking windows on a building. He shot and killed them, and that was the only thing he was doing. He shot and killed somebody that was charging after him, which is why...
Well, we don't know that yet, right? Like, the earliest point of the footage we know is that there was a gunshot first, and then he fired a gunshot, right? We don't know what was happening before that, though. What led up to that?
I don't know who the third person is. Does anyone know? This is one of Destiny's mods / friends. Oh, okay. That's surprising. Northern California is crawling with Nazis. Is it? Okay. If Sam Harris could wave a magic wand and get rid of rape or Islam, he would hesitate to choose the latter. He wouldn't hesitate to choose the latter. Okay. Booksmart. That his name. What? I don't know.
That's a huge
if we don't know that, then we can't, at the same time, we can't talk about this community idea or the justifications for him being there, right? Because we also don't have the answers to that. So we kind of have to limit ourselves to like what we saw.
Well, sure. So if we ignore the community aspect altogether, then I would posit that I don't think it was appropriate for him to enter that area with a gun, like an open brandished gun, especially if you aren't even allowed to own that gun.
Well, but there's... Okay. These are separate. Well, we're in terms of like owning the gun or not allowed to own the gun. Those are like separate conversations as well, right?
Sure, absolutely. But I mean, this whole thing, like,
well, yes and no. If you know you're not allowed to be there and you're beyond curfew, that legally matters, and I think that morally matters. Because if we're going to say this is about protecting property, for instance, why? I mean, property only really. Is protected by the law, it seems to me. So if you want to make the moral argument about property being this sacrosanct thing, I think the law needs to be, you need to be consistent in your following of the law, surely. And he broke the law in presumably a number of ways before even then killing people. Like, he put himself in that situation. Now you might say that sounds a lot like the victim blaming. Well, not really. Not really. You know already, like, Destiny literally brings up, if a woman goes to a party where it's full of people she knows have a proclivity for sexual assault, does that mean she deserves to get raped? No, because the point is, he put himself into that scenario to try and defend like private property. A person's body is not the equivalent of of a fucking gas station, Destiny. And he does genuinely make that point. I remember it sparked in my mind because someone pointed it out down here. There was someone doing timestamps. The protests turned into riots. Where was it? I can't remember anyway. But he does make that analogy.
Like, none of these are just isolated instances. Like, I know we want to break it down into like, do you think X or Y, yes or no? Do you think X or Y, yes or no? And then based on that, but it's such a multifaceted issue. Like, none of this happens in a vacuum, right?
I understand, but when we say multifacet, that single facet's coming together to form the multifacet. So we have to understand like our singular points of agreement or contention before we can talk about the multifaceted argument. That's why I'm trying.
This is what I mean about him being a snake. It's like, well, we'll only talk about the stuff we disagree with on these moral matters, but you're not doing this from like a moral point of view, Destiny. You've been actively supporting this shit. We'll watch a couple of more minutes and then we'll stop because we've been going nearly 2 hours now, and I can't be bothered with Prager tonight. We'll do it next week or something.
Trying to like figure out like, so for instance, if you tell me, well, I think he could defend it even if it's like a friend store. Okay, cool. Then we move on to the next part. But if we disagree here, well, then we have to solve it here. We can't. It feels like every time we have a fundamental disagreement, we're making this strange and vague appeal to the multi.
No, I'm not saying that breaking a curfew is gives the police the right to kill people. No, that's not at all what I was trying to suggest. And I don't know if that was necessarily at me or someone else in the chat and I missed their comment. But and also, by the way, the imposition of curfews on people puts paid to the argument about that freedom of speech warriors actually give a fuck about freedom of speech, because people have a right to protest unless the government arbitrarily change the rules in any geographic location. To me, you can't. But if you break that rule, that's illegal and the police can lock you up forever. Or for a certain time. Yeah, it's nonsense. But the point is, if we're talking about property being this fucking hugely sacred thing to these libertarians, then the law has to be fucking followed. Otherwise, why should I respect the law about your private property? You know?
Multifaceted part of the conversation, but we haven't even gotten to that part yet. I'm just trying to figure out like, can we show up to defend like our like community property? Can that concept or that thing even be morally justified right there? Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
It depends on the property, depends on the community, depends on the moment. I don't think lethal force applies to any scenario. I don't think you should be able to shoot.
I'm falling down the hole.
I understand that. So I don't think you're being super flexible on this. So
again, to the right-wing dickhead in the chat, when you say that he was the one being chased down, how do you know that isn't itself an act of self-defense? How do you know that Kyle wasn't the aggressor there? You don't. Also, in terms of, debate Destiny. Destiny's not going to bother debating someone as small as me, I don't think. But if that came about, yeah, fine. I'll debate him on this. I don't give a fuck. I mean, it probably wouldn't be very productive because I'd say you're a cunt, because that's all that needs to be said, frankly. But, yeah, I would. Whatever.
Is there a principle that you have, then, that is just going to go over everything else, Serfs? Like, there's a principle of not wanting to harm other people that's just, it's always going to turn this argument one way or the other for you? Because it sounds like it doesn't matter how many other things we do as far as changing the definition of community or these other things, because you have other reasons for not siding with the attacker or not understanding why what happened. And like Destiny's saying, if it's a multifaceted thing, then we have to start with like 1 or 2 facets and find some kind of common agreement on it before we can move into like general arguments about the entire thing.
I completely understand the anger management coach now. This is well, this is nice. I get it, because I know Destiny be screaming at me right now. Okay. Destiny, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day though, like my biggest concern is like, I told you this at the very start of this, you know way more about moralism, about philosophy. Like I would be woefully out of my depth if I was like to come here and be like, hey Destiny, I want to talk to you about all different kinds of like normative claims, prescriptive statements, stuff like that. I'm not going to try and do that. To me, what I've always said to you when we have these kind of talks is, why are we focusing on these certain things? Now, you want to focus on this because you want to extrapolate it and understand why each part of it is like builds a bigger tapestry, right? Like if I try to talk about a big picture issue, you always say, let's get down to the fundamental moralistic root of this and why you believe X, right?
Yeah.
Usually, typically. And that's fine. on the other end of this, on the other end of the aisle, what I was basically wondering this whole time is, why is this the point that we're hyper focusing on when it comes to whether or not this one individual was justified?
Well, the whole point that Destiny wants to just focus on the things that are convenient for him, because he's got an irrational, instinctive, emotional response to this, which is my guns, my property, fuck human life. And he's an anti-socialist gobshite, so the fact that two people who might vaguely be described as socialist, although he doesn't know their politics, but they're probably on the left, you would imagine, being a BLM protest. Although Mitt Romney attended a BLM protest, so it's not necessarily the case. But even so, let's just say they're leftist. Means that they're fair game in Destiny's eyes, it seems. His anti-leftism arc has been really annoying and shit. I think I'm actually just going to leave it there for tonight. I'm starting to feel a little bit tired. Maybe I need to get more sleep. We're now close enough towards the end that if it did cut out on the bitrate, I would just end the stream. So I'll say 0 drop frames, fuck you, Fate. I'm nothing if not a dickhead. You know this. We all know this. But anyway, yeah. So, yeah, Destiny's garbage. The Serfs are awesome. Go and follow the Serfs. So Andrew Richardson got back to me. Hello. Okay. All right. One last thing. One last thing. Good God. Okay. I didn't realise until I went back just to check briefly on my Twitch, because I was just checking that the stream was still going, because I'm hyper fixated and paranoid about it at the moment. And I didn't realise that my good friend, my future lover, I dare say, Andrew Richardson, had gotten back to me. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily because they're watching. Oh, hang on, I've gone onto the wrong fucking thing, haven't I? I'm not even on the right screen again. I'm a dickhead. God, I'm boomer supreme. I really am. Anyway, so I'm still going. That's still happening. Yeah, my good friend Andrew Richardson had gotten back to me, which, as we can see there, it's he is watching me. By all means, put something terrible on the screen. Anyway, Andrew says Caleb completely destroyed centristinity last year. Destiny. You mean centristinity? Okay, that doesn't really work. Okay, yes, I'm watching you, babe. Your punctuation's bad. I meant at Destiny. Oh, what should we say? Go away. That's enough of that nonsense. Anyway, yeah, I'm done. I'm done. Oh, tankies are fun. By which I mean stupid. Anyway, thank you all for your listening and your watchings. Destiny's garbage. Oh, Andrew's come back to me. See you tomorrow. Okay, babe. Fuck's sake. So, we might get more from Andrew in the future. That'll be fun. Yeah, Destiny's garbage. The Serfs are awesome. Go and follow them on the Twitches and the YouTubes and the Twitters and all of that shit. It's such a shame to see Destiny fall down this rabbit hole, because he used to do really good stuff, like taking on Nazis and shit, and now he's like defending them. Oh, like literally later on in the debate, he's like, I don't care if white nationalists form militias as long as they're just protecting property, as if that's all white nationalists are going to do, is just protect private property from rioters. No, they're going to go out shooting ethnic minorities, you stupid cunt. What the fuck is wrong with you? Honest to God. Anyway, so yeah, the Destiny's, what's the opposite of a redemption arc? Whatever that is. Destiny's anti-redemption arc has been really depressing to watch. Fuck him. Stop messaging me, Andrew. I'm not gonna keep giving you all this attention, you dopey bastard. Anyway, yeah, Destiny's garbage. Just stop.
Just stop, for the love of God. Serfs are awesome. What else is there, Kev? Come on. There's got to be some other thing you have to say. Yeah, join me tomorrow. That's what I was going to say. Join me tomorrow, where I'll be doing a show with Christy. I'll only be on Twitch because it'll be broadcast on her Twitter account. Not her Twitter account, her YouTube account. Jesus Christ, I'm terrible during the main body of a show, but the wrap up is always the worst. Good God. Anyway, yeah, join me tomorrow, where I'll be doing a show. I'll be only on Twitch because it'll be on Christie's YouTube channel. We'll be going through stuff and things. There'll be politics. There'll probably be drama and stuff. I don't know quite what yet. We'll be discussing some things, going through the Twitter bookmarks and all the rest of it as we usually do. And then at some point we're going to also, at some point in the future, do the Leap, Rise of the Beast, the movie. God, that film was bad. Sloth Mom's charity stream this weekend, though? ? I'd love to go on. I haven't been invited. I don't know them that well, but if they want me on, yeah, absolutely, that'd be awesome. First I've actually heard of the charity stream taking place, but yeah, but I don't know if I will be. I don't know. Well, I'm available because Casey Explosion's fucking awesome. So yeah, and charity's generally good, albeit that. Ideally, in a capitalism would be destroyed and the need for charity would be removed. But yeah, anyway, that's by the by. Yeah, so join me tomorrow, 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. on the east coast of America, 6 a.m. in Fiji. Can raid. Oh, into the charity stream. Well, I probably won't be broadcasting this weekend, I don't think. So I don't think I can. And stop reading the chat, Kev. You're supposed to be fucking doing anything. But I will be raiding now into whoever the fuck is going. But there we go. Yeah. Thank you all for listening and watching. No, don't be sorry. I'm the broadcaster. I'm supposed to be like doing things at least vaguely professionally, and I'm not. I'm bad at this. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but I am pretty shit at this. Anyway. But technically it went well, apart from my computer randomly trying to shut down twice at the start. That was weird. Don't know why that happened, but it did. There we go. Yeah, I'll be raiding into whoever the fuck is going at the moment. But thank you all for listening and watching. And though the fuck's that? I fucked it up again. I fucked it up yesterday. I fucked it up. Though cowards flinch and traitors sneer, we'll keep the red flag flying here. No pass around.